It's been a while since we've had our friend John on. He is the founder of Male Victims of Female Narcissists. We've done several interviews together over the years. And oh, he's just sending me a message. Hopefully he'll join in a second. But he has been alienated from his four kids for 4 years, I think. We've done extensive conversations about this topic and his life. And he just posted something maybe 2 weeks ago. I saw that said that one of his daughters reached out to him after all of these years. And we got in touch, and I was like, John, you have to come on. I have to hear the story. So I don't know where he is yet. Hopefully he'll join any moment. But we're going to be talking about what happened, as well as some of his views on alienation itself. John had a situation where he was in a really, really long-term marriage, and his ex sort of injected herself, not just between herself and his children, apparently, but also with his family of origin. And this is something that we see all the time as well. And I'm just like, where is John? We better get started. But he told me when we met the lines that his daughter said as soon as their first conversation together. I can't wait to share it with you. And I'm like, where is he? So here he is. Okay, good. So there you are, John. I am so happy that this has happened. I think there's many, many people who feel like it's never going to change. And here we have like live testament to a situation that's just magic. So before you even get into that, you had said that there's two kinds of parental alienation. Say what they are, and then we'll have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so the two kinds of parental alienation that people are dealing with, one is really more a legally imposed kind of parental alienation, where it's mostly with younger children, where the narcissist parent is imposing or trying to impose more restrictions on the victim, so that legally they're not able to see their children. There are folks I've talked to. I know of one guy who is millions of dollars in debt, and that's because she has manipulated the world around him and accused him of all kinds of things to try and keep him away from his children, and that's a problem. The other kind of parental alienation, which I think is probably more insidious, is where the narcissist parent works on the kids quietly, perhaps passive aggressively, perhaps not so passive aggressively, over a period of time. And during that period of time, puts the kids in a place where they choose not to be in relationship with their own parent. And it feels natural to them because it's happened over time, and it's kind of like the hard rock in a river where the edges smooth over a period of time. And it's perhaps the more insidious one where you actually have your kids choosing not to be with the good parent because of what takes place with the narcissist. So it's not a legal thing. That's one thing with little children and courts and all of that. And then you have this other thing where the kids literally just choose to be away from you because they're just not interested in a relationship of any kind.
Yeah, I love that the differentiation you make. We have this class I've been talking about for a while that hopefully is ready in July. It's called the Alienation Masterclass, How to Protect Your Relationship with Your Children in and Out of Court, because it is two completely separate things. But there's so
Really
much
are.
more that you can do outside of court, and you obviously have a lot more control outside of court, even though there's many things out of your control. But
Yep.
you and I are both really chatty. Let me let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get to the story.
I'm responding to your message. So I'm John McKenney. You can find me online at Male Victims of Female Narcissists, and also malevictimsoffemalenarcissists.com. I've tried to give a voice to men who are in situations where they're being abused by female narcissists. And that doesn't mean I don't support women in it either, by the way. Half my audience is women, and a lot of times it's women who have watched their male victim get abused
Yep.
and want to know how to help them. So I'm certainly championing the cause of anybody who is abused by a narcissist, and but particularly trying to give men a voice, because I think we oftentimes get overlooked. Um, and parental alienation, again, if you want to divide the thing out, most of the time it's the guys who are getting alienated, unfortunately. Not a rule. It happens the other way too, but it really does probably happen more often with men than it does with women.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, we know that it does, but in our community, Chris's and I have been there, got our community, we have a lot
Yeah,
more women. We have
that
men
wouldn't
too, but
surprise me. Yeah,
it's like every other person, if not more, is dealing with this, and that's why we wrote the book about it. But
yeah.
before
By
we
the
get
way,
into your, yeah, but
product placement.
oh,
Thank you for
good.
my copy.
You're
And
welcome.
those of you out there who may be watching now or watching later, you really do want to get your copy of this book. It's absolutely fantastic. And we're going to learn some even today more about what happens when the kids turn the ex against, or when the ex turns your kids against you, because it's tough.
It is. Thank you so
We've learned
much.
the hard
And
way.
yeah, and I'm so excited because John, we met in real life
We did.
for the book party. So
We
this was the
did.
one that was out, and you have a copy of this
That's right.
somewhere.
I do. I
You
do.
don't need
Thank
to.
you for that as well.
Yeah, that was a lot of
And
fun.
so good to see you. You know, you and Padita and a couple of others. It's one of the few times where I've really been able to meet the other influencers in the community, and such a pleasure to know you guys. So I really count myself blessed, and I'm so grateful for your work.
Oh, same, same, same. So another thing you said was that people who divorce a narcissist when the kids are younger have an advantage. You divorced when your kids were older. Tell us what you think would have been different or is
So
different with that.
so and you know, some of this is my conclusion from having done it the way I did it. I waited. Um, I waited till my kids were out of high school in order to divorce. That was intentional. I figured she was not so healthy, so it'd be good to have one healthy parent around. The problem is that when you divorce late, you have to concede that no matter the parenting is given in the home, and no matter what takes place in the home, because you have one sick parent who's a narcissist, the parenting that gets delivered is really just not great parenting. And it's this combination of nonsense and you trying to deal with a narcissist and the narcissist disrespecting you, and it's this jumble of discipline and parenting all wrapped up into one. And what comes out is it winds up being bad parenting, even with your best efforts. You hope and pray that your kids. You have to forgive me. I'm getting over bronchitis, so I've got my mints if I cough too much. But um, you hope that your kids are able to sort it out. If I had to do it over again, I would probably have divorced earlier. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing, because you get to influence your kids individually and uniquely. The weather is always fine in your home. They have a place where good parenting reigns, and the other stuff stands out on its own as nonsense. And I think there are better opportunities for the kids to begin to see some of the nonsense, even when they're younger. And the parent can manipulate and try to go do that, but if it's okay over here, if you have these places of peace, it may be better to do it sooner. Not a rule. I know parents who've done it successfully both ways, but I think there are advantages to being in a place and establishing a home where good parenting is constantly taking place. It's an anchor in what is a giant storm, and I think when you're together, you really don't have that opportunity necessarily in the middle of the storm to create the anchor a kid needs.
You're right. I mean, studies have shown, and Chris and I talk about it a lot, that when you stay in a relationship that's unhealthy, your kids are learning that that's what's normal and that's
Absolutely.
clear, and that's what they themselves will gravitate towards. So it is very difficult to get out of these relationships, but
Yeah.
just it's so much better for your kids.
Yeah.
Not that it's easy, but what you're saying reflects what the research says.
Yeah, and you know, the healthiest thing, the best thing you can do, the best gift you can give your kids is a healthy marriage. I'm convinced of that. It's not running them to sports. It's not keeping them busy and all these other extracurricular kinds of things that so many parents are fascinated by, like little red buttons in an empty room. It's a good marriage. And, I see this in my children now, as they've kind of, as they're in the dating world, the ones I'm in touch with. Um, I see the way, particularly the girls, I see the way they interact with other men, and it's just not so healthy. They're they're
Yeah.
they're expecting the same kinds of things of a man, that their mother expected of me, and it was never a relationship in the beginning. So, and it kind of comes down to this. They're in the center of the world and they want the guy to worship them and spin around them, and they take care of every need while they give nothing back. And
Yeah.
that's not a marriage. That's not a relationship. And as the guys kind of figure it out, the relationship dissolves, and it's unfortunate. And I watch this and I hurt for my children because, in some capacity, that's my fault. I was not able to give them the environment I'd hoped to raise them in, and to raise them in a healthy marriage. So these are things they're going to have to figure out as they go.
Yeah, I hate to hear you blame yourself, with the situation like that, because there's so many other factors that take place.
There are.
But yeah, well, let's talk about your daughter. So, you
Yeah,
had said that after you split with your ex, you'd been in touch with this child for the first year,
that's
and then
correct.
she got really angry and wrote a text to you
Yes,
that said something like "See you never."
it
How did you
was
respond
just
when you
those
got that?
words.
Yeah.
I was horrified. Actually, more than horrified, I was really just hurt. Um,
Mhm.
from that point in the conversation, and I would tell you that what she got angry over was something that probably wasn't worth getting angry over if she had to go back to that. And I bet she would tell you the same thing. I think from her tone, having some conversation. Um, but my conversation was from.
Oh, wait, say it again. The volume is off for a second. I don't know if you got a message, John.
Oh, sorry. Did my
Now it's okay. Now say
There
it.
we
Keep
go.
going.
My headset vanished on me, so I
Mhm.
apologize there.
It's okay.
Let me just take a minute. Is it back? There we
Yep,
go.
it's
Can you hear me
fine.
again? Sorry about
Mhm.
that. I'll just take them out. One of them went through the wash, so it kind of fades in and out. Sorry to hear that. But uh, but she got upset kind of over nothing, and when she said that to me, I remember going, everything is sounding, you get this panic. I'm going to lose one of my children, and my conversation was, that's not what I want. I don't want us to be
Mhm.
separated. Let's not do this over text. I'd like to have a conversation with you. She rejected the conversation. Um, and what I was left with was eventually saying to her, if you'd go down this path, I will respect your boundaries, but I would hate it.
Yep.
And that really ended the conversation for about another 4 years.
So when I saw your post a couple of weeks ago and contacted you immediately,
You
you
did.
said person reached out, and that you specifically said, because I take notes when I can read my
I
handwriting,
can
I actually
tell.
type them. You said I couldn't ask for, you had a total win, that you couldn't ask for more of a win or a better response for your kids. So this kid reached out and
Really
asked to
true.
talk, and
Really
you
true.
asked, like, about what, and she
Yep.
said, I'd like to be in a relationship again.
Yep. That's exactly
What
correct.
happened? Tell us what happened.
Well, let me talk first about the framework, kind of within which I've operated. Um, when a parent is alienated, particularly by an adult child, and she's an adult, this is not a child. This is somebody over 30.
Mhm.
So when you're dealing with that, uh, uh, you're dealing with another adult. At the same time, you are always a parent. And the framework for this, for those of you that follow me, know that I consider myself a Christian, and there are things that I say and do that come out of the Bible. And I don't mean to be preachy, but this particular story provides the framework within which I've operated. And there's a story in the scriptures about the prodigal son. Basically, there are two sons. The younger son says, "F you, dad. Give me my inheritance now." and I'm out of here. And for some unknown reason, perhaps because the father knew that the kid needed the lesson, he gives him the cash, and the kid goes off and blows his wad. I spends every last dollar on women and the drugs and alcohol of the time. He's partying it up, and the cash runs out. And he winds up feeding pigs. And and there's this point in his life where as he's putting the pig slop out, working on a farm. It says this. It says, and then he came to his senses,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes back to the father, and the father is kind of waiting with open arms, and receives him again as a son.
And that's the important
And
part too, waiting with open arms rather
it
than.
is, and I'll tell you, that's been the harder part of this whole thing, because you wind up as a parent being so hurt over the alienation, especially from somebody who chooses this. It, I don't want to compare people's pain, um, but when your kid chooses to not be in a relationship with you, it's not an adult invoking the courts against a little kid. Little kids don't make wise decisions about these kinds of things. They just don't understand it. But when you have an adult who chooses it, and that manipulation has affected them over such a long period of time, and they just go, sorry, I don't want you. It's crushing. And to be waiting with open arms is hard. There are days of hurt, there are days of anger, there are days of pain. But that's been my goal all along, is to be willing to be back into a relationship, to have this relationship with my kid, that to grow it again, to be in a new place with her, as it is with all my children. Um, but that was the plan. The other thing was this, in this passage of the Bible, it does not talk about the father chasing them. And there are some parents who chase their kids, and by and large, I don't see a whole lot of success with that either. That doesn't mean there won't be in some. There are no rules with all of this stuff, but to me, it's kind of enabling a kid to disrespect you. And in this particular situation where the kid goes off, they need something that perhaps you can't give them. They need an experience that being away from you can give them. And I think that holds true here in the situation with kids who are victims of narcissistic abuse too. And this is narcissistic abuse against the kids, this manipulation. They have to figure it out. Sometimes they got to figure it out for themselves. So the father kind of lets him go, gives them the cash, says basically you got to figure this out for yourself. And then when they figure it out, there's this moment where they've got it, and they come back, and you have to be waiting with open arms. So I didn't chase my children either, and haven't. And they're again all adults, all in their mid 20s to early 30s, and that was how I played it. Some are different. I'm not here to criticize one way or the other, but that was how I played it. And I waited. I waited for her to come back. I'm waiting for them to come back. The others that have not yet, and I'm waiting for that moment that where they come to their senses. And that's what I've kind of been looking for. And I got that, with my kid. And she right up front apologized, and said, I'm sorry for this. You did try to reach out to me and have a conversation, and I didn't do it. And I didn't expect it to go on this long, to be honest with you.
All right,
And
pause, John,
interest,
because I took notes. I took more specific notes, and maybe you've forgotten the
go,
detail because it's been a couple weeks. But according to you, a couple weeks ago when this had just happened, she said, "I just want you to know I'm very sorry for the words I said to you.
100%.
My
Yep.
words were very hurtful and disrespectful, and I'm sorry."
Those were her exact
And
words. And I
yeah,
don't want to miss
I
those.
was like,
And
let me
and I'll
remind
tell
you.
you, and I'm glad you reminded me about that, because there's something important about that statement. That
Yeah,
is the I've come to my senses statement.
right.
That's the thing I most needed to hear through everything else. Ironic that I kind of forgot it right there. I'm sure I'd have gotten back around to it with my ADDness, but
Well, now we
um,
have it. It's all recorded.
we do. um, and truthfully, as it's been 4 years. I've had time to kind of think about this conversation, what I'd say and what I didn't say. Um, I had decided that really, without some apology, there really wasn't much relationship going forward. So, so I needed that, I think, in order for us to move forward. I think she needed that in order for us to move forward too, to own her own stuff. And there were apologies on my end too. She had said, I really had wanted you to chase me, which was
Yeah, that was, I
interesting.
have it highlighted.
So, so what I, and how I responded to that, and I didn't pull punches. And here's why I didn't pull punches, because I'm a parent and I'm still a dad. And even though she's in her 30s, these are teachable moments. And when you, part of narcissist BS is saying one thing and living another. And she said, I was really hoping you would chase me. And my response to that was, um, I don't, I haven't gone back through your texts in years, but what I remember is see you never.
Yeah.
And she kind of sat back and she's like, yeah, you could feel
And you let that silence for a
I
moment.
did. She didn't have to apologize for that. I could feel the regret from her. Um, but it was very important, I think, to acknowledge that. And for her to realize that this was very hurtful too, that's the thing that stuck in my head. That word, those words, see you never, stuck in my head. And I said to her, I told you in the text that one, I'd wanted to talk. And again, she'd apologize for that. But two, that I would respect your boundaries if this is the path you chose. And, to me, you were very clear in what you'd wanted. And I gave you what you said you asked for. So from my perspective, I was honoring, what you wanted. And if it was different, if you'd kind of indicated, I would have been, that you wanted something different, I certainly would have stepped up to that. But this is kind of where we are because these were your words to me. And, and that was a punch that I chose not to pull. Um, One, because it's the truth, and two, because well, there are three. Two, because I wanted her to feel there's pain in that for me.
Mhm.
And I think she needed to feel that. And the third thing was there's a lesson in this, even as an adult. And this is, I'm very aware that I'm a parent first, always, even though my kids are older, I'm a parent first and they're my friends second. So, so these are the kinds of things, these are the kinds of life lessons, that she may not even understand at an intellectual level. But these are the kind of life lessons that are important. You say you can't live in an environment where you say one thing and do another, and there not be some consequences in some way. And the consequences here, she'd wanted this to end 6 months in, 3 months in, 2 weeks in, or 2 years in. The consequences were disconnection. And quite honestly, not only was I hurt in that and hurt by that, but she was hurt by that as well, because she was out of relationship with her dad.
Yeah.
So, so these are the consequences of these kinds of statements. And I needed her to know that if that's what you say you want, then that's what you're going to get in most situations. Um,
No mind games.
this is not a Justin Bieber song. What do you mean? When you nod your head yes, and you want to say no, what do you mean? And that's the kind of thing he's talking about in that song. Um, so that was all part of the conversation, um, and part of the healing process, I think.
Yeah. So after that, and I have this in my notes, you said you saw that there was a lot of regret on her face.
No
Um,
question.
yeah, and there was no need to, like, with any further apologies, and that she explicitly said, I'd like to move on. If you could move on, like, I'm wondering if you could move on and forgive me. She said that to you.
Yeah. And, I wanted to be the father with open arms. So forgiveness, was extended and forgiveness was received. And there's no amount of going back to the hurt over the 4 years. The path, the path is forward. It's not behind. So,
Yeah, and you
I
said
try
during
my,
that
Go ahead.
during that conversation, you said there was only a short part of it that was spent talking about the past.
Yeah. Let's see, we've been at this about 30 minutes, and it's lasted longer than the conversation did with her about this stuff, to be honest with you, because I'm explaining it. But,
Yeah.
um, the forgiveness piece of that and the repentance piece of that and saying I'm sorry. And there were some things I apologized for too. You know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you wanted to be chased and I didn't chase you because I just didn't understand. I'm sorry I wasn't able to provide that for you. Because as a father, I wanted to go provide that. But at the same time, I'm a parent first. And I think there's perhaps a 4-year lesson in that, in how you treat people and perhaps those you love most. So, um, parenting's parenting's hard. And if you think that you can enter parenting and it not be painful, particularly as the kids get older, you're just out of your mind.
Hmm.
Whether you're in a situation where your kids are alienated from you or not, there are choices that you have to make that are just hard. Where you choose them and what they need to understand over yourself. I tell people all the time, you know, who are about to have a kid, pregnant with a kid, I go, you think marriage is sacrificial? Wait till you have a kid. The
Hmm.
sacrifice necessary, setting yourself aside, um, to go impart to them the right things is just hard. Um, but this piece of our conversation really only lasted about 20 minutes. And from there on, it was connecting about what we've missed over the last 4 years, what we're doing, now, and what we hope to accomplish here in the days ahead and the not too distant future.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, one of our clients yesterday actually said, I told her afterward that we would be talking, but just coincidentally, she said, uh, if one more person tells me that the kids are just going to figure it out, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't want to wait till they're 30. I want them back now. What
It's
do
a
you have
good
to say
statement.
to someone in a situation like this now with younger kids? Because we deal with
Hmm.
a lot of people in the court system whose kids are under 18.
Sure.
Many of them are the magic age of 14 or older, where they're just they're teenagers and they're like, I'm not gonna talk to you, and they've got all the hormone
Hmm.
things, and it is
It's
heartbreaking
crushing.
for yeah.
Crushing. My first statement would be, I'm sorry, and I identify with every word you spoke. Um, you want it to end quick. You know, I'm just about 6 years, um, 6 years into divorce, been separated more than 6 years now. And, and parental alienation and being away from your kids and separated is just often a casualty in the relationship. And it was also one I did not expect when I was going through the process. When I had a conversation with my ex about a divorce the first time, the first words out of her mouth to me were, some of your kids will never forgive you. And in that moment, I went, like, because I'm a good parent first. I did not and still do not have conversations with my children about the failings of our marriage. It's none of their business. So
Hmm.
what happens behind closed doors in a marriage, and should happen behind closed doors in a marriage, um, stays there, and you don't paint that on the kids. You don't give that to them. And that's how I played it. And in that moment, I realized that she didn't play it that way. She'd already had these conversations with the kids, that she'd already had this opportunity to go manipulate, give them her spin. And I was shocked. So I did not expect this to be a part of my journey, even though it was. So the whole thing for me was just ridiculously crushing. Um, and everything inside you wants to go pull the kids aside and spill it and go, you want to know what happened? Let me go tell you what happened, and to vindicate yourself and talk about why perhaps you were angry with the other parent or what they were doing or cheating or this or that and all that other stuff. What I've learned is that, as much as you want to go do that, to go expedite the process of them understanding, I don't think this is a process that can be microwaved, because you want them to come to their senses, and anything shy of that is going to be a problem. So So again, I would say there's no shortcutting it, even though you want to go do that. Um, and if there's one commonality amongst all the people I've spoken with, about parental alienation and narcissistic abuse, they all say this: the parent who takes the high road wins. So as I lived my life with my ex and did not have conversations about her, um, negatively with my children. I did not, if we had fights, I wasn't talking to my kids about them. And I would not entertain conversation if they asked me, why are you guys angry with each other? Why are you guys fighting? You know what? Mom and dad are having some issues that we're working through, but we love you. And really, you don't need that baggage. And it's not really so appropriate to talk to you. After all, what does a 14-year-old have to contribute to an adult having marital problems? So it's emotionally incestuous when somebody does that, and creates an inappropriate bond with the person doing those kinds of things. And I'll tell you what, those bonds will be broken in time.
Yeah.
And I would love to tell you that there's a quick route to this. I have a therapist friend who told me, it on average, it takes the kids about 10 years to figure it all out. And it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already, I was thinking then it's already been 2 years and I'm dying, and now I'm
Mhm.
6 years in and I'm dying and only two of my kids are back. And I want the other two back. And there's just no way around it. I think they have to go figure some of these things out for themselves. And the way I've approached it in terms of information, it's on a need to know basis. Um, Even in divorce, even though my ex had an emotional obsession with another man, even though my ex gaslighted me to the point where I was ready to go unalive myself, um, I will not badmouth her to my children, and I will not tell them about it. Now, if they ask specific questions about it, I would probably answer some specific questions, but they haven't, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So I don't offer that information. So I take the high road. And when I speak about my ex, I talk about her only in a positive light. I talk about the good things she did. I talk about the good things we did together. You remember when this happened, when we were this, or you remember when this happened, when we were this, and it's very historical. But I will only point out the good, because again, it's my job, even in my own pain, to be a good parent, to my children. And I'm modeling that even now, and modeled it in my own absence over the last 4 years. Um, and it was a lesson for my kid, and your words have meaning, and a painful one, I'm sure, for both of us in some respects. Clearly, she had wanted this to end sooner as well, as did I. Um, but I'm not sure she'd had that lesson if I hadn't sat on it. So I would love to tell you there's a shortcut, and if there is, I don't know it. So while I can empathize deeply with your client's pain, I just don't think there's another way around it. Um, Interestingly enough, one of the other things that got spoken to me up front with one of my kids. So I've got four children. Two are estranged, two are not, now. And she's talking about one of the other kids, and she said, "You know what? You might have an opportunity there if you reach out." So I'm trying to decide now what to go do with that, because I certainly want to be in relationship with that kid again. And then there's the fourth one, and she said, "Oh yeah, no chance there." Not
Mhm.
going to happen. So one's way off the radar. And he's the golden child, and she has her tentacles kind of more clearly into him. And I even think that can turn around in an instant. Um,
Mhm.
because a relationship is unhealthy between the two of them. And all it would take is a girlfriend coming home with him one day and watching the two of them interact. And after they walk out the front door, her going, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Because it'll be visible. And in that moment, you go, "Oh my God, my dad was right." And it can flip
Yeah.
very quickly.
We've seen that happen. Exactly the
So
way you described it.
So you have to hold it. It's the hardest thing to kind of hold that line, and to be a good parent. and to want to go vindicate yourself. But I've not found, and not just with my children, but with anybody, I've not found that trying to vindicate myself or having conversations about what really happened has been of any value whatsoever in turning the flying monkeys or parents or cousins or, sisters or whoever it might be, friends, back into my corner or wanting to be in relationship with me. That's happened 0 times.
Hmm.
So I don't know that it's helpful anywhere, but especially with your kids. And again, it's just, you have to be the good parent, and being the good parent and being the healthy parent costs sometimes. And it's just flat out painful. There's no way
Yeah.
around it.
Oh my gosh, John, I could talk to you forever, but of course we're getting low on time. But thank you so much. I mean,
Oh,
your
anytime.
experience is so powerful and
Thank
relatable.
you. Thank
People,
you so
how can
much.
they find you if they want to talk to you more or
Yeah.
work with you directly?
Yep. You can DM me on here. I answer all my DMs as Lisa does. We do it ourselves.
That's
Male
right.
victims of female narcissists. I have a website also, male victims of female narcissists.com. And I'm also on a podcast with a dear friend of ours named Padita Jafari. And it's called the Narcissist Abuse Recovery Channel, acronym NARC. So you can find us on Spotify, on Amazon. Also, we're Narcissist Abuse Recovery Channel.com. And we get information from there. You can check out all our podcasts. We talk some about parental alienation. Those podcasts would be worth tuning into. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I do some coaching of men as well, who are working through this. In fact, meeting with somebody tonight to go try and help walk them through this, because it's not easy. So,
Wow.
so that's my lot. Feel free to reach out to me, and I would enjoy the conversation. And thank you so much for having me. And shameless plug again,
Thank you so
Lisa's
much.
book. Go get her book and read it and help yourself get back on track. One of the things I so much appreciate about you, Lisa, is that you like collective wisdom. And I know that you've talked to many people about this and what works and what doesn't, and pain points, and to increase your own understanding. And this book is not just your own insight, but is also the collection of that wisdom. So good for you. Congrats on the second book. You've polished out 2. I'm still working on my first. One of these days I'll finish it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody needs to reach out, I'd be happy to chat.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Thanks so much,
time.
John. All right. Take
All right.
care.
Take
And
care. Bye bye.
congratulations. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.